Let's return now to our top story, and that is the stage 6 blackouts happening across the country this evening. A wage deal with Eskom workers is on the table. We know that it will be discussed on Friday. Unions, National Union of Mine Workers and NUMSA, have committed that their workers are back on duty from today in good faith. But let's get a sense of how things went today. And I'm joined by spokesperson for the National Union of Mine Workers, Livhuwani Mammburu. Livhuwani, it's perhaps quite telling that we're doing this over the telephone because of load shedding. Stage 6 is pretty serious. I wonder if you can talk to us about how many of your workers who were meant to report back to duty today actually did go to Eskom.
Good evening. We can confirm that we got reports from Witbank and Lipalale at Duba, Kriel, Kendal, Matimba, and Midupi and Grootvlei power stations. The situation was back to normal. Workers were at work. But we're facing some challenges at Matla, Hendrina, Arnott, and the Letabo power stations, where our members indicated that it is difficult for them to normalize the situation when there's no wage agreement that has been signed. So that is what has been happening today.
So yesterday, both the NUN and NUMSA committed to creating a process of normalisation, a good faith commitment, because, of course, as those workers correctly point out, there isn't a signed deal yet, there's an offer. How are you going to encourage them back to work? Because I would imagine while workers from those 4 power stations say, look, we're not keen to go back, that is going to delay this process of normalising us to, well, our normal, what is our new normal? Is it stage 2? Is it stage 4?
As we speak now, we have leaders on the ground who are trying to speak to those workers to normalize the situation on the ground. So we got a team of leaders who are there on those power stations, who are trying to their level best to normalize the situation.
Could you give us some insight into why those particular 4 power stations that you mentioned, I think you said Matla, Hendrina, Arnott and Letaba, why workers there are particularly reluctant to come back to work? Is it about money, or is there a lot more at play here?
There's a lot of at play. Workers say that they don't trust Eskom anymore because last year, you might remember, Eskom signed a 1.5% without the agreement with the unions. And they also worried that their conditions of service have been unilaterally changed by Eskom, looking at issues of overtime, standby allowance. They used to be paid ×2, now they are paid ×1. So the bone of contention is the condition of service here, which were unilaterally changed by the Eskom management. So they feel that those conditions of services must be reversed, and so that they must get the benefits that they used to get. And the other most important thing is the apartheid wage gap that still exists at Eskom. They are worried about issues like that. So they emphasize that Eskom cannot be trusted. They would rather wait for Friday to see if the offer that they have tabled, it will be presented in the Central Bargaining Forum. Those are some of the issues that are making workers angry.
The reality is that Eskom workers aren't allowed to strike. So what they're doing is illegal, and it's not been mandated by yourselves. This is a tricky conversation to have. What do you say to them?
No, definitely. They know that Eskom is an essential service. Like ourselves as the unions, we did not sanction the strike of the pickets that are happening around the power stations. But once we realized that our workers are picketing or they went on a strike, we immediately contacted the Eskom management to engage with them to say that let's come back to the wage negotiations so that we can find a solution and normalize the situation on the ground. That is when Eskom tabled an offer that I just said that will be presented on Friday in the Central Bargaining Forum. The attempt was to try and normalize the situation, and that is the reason why in our statement we said that workers, we are appealing to workers to normalize the situation in power stations while we are negotiating with Eskom. And that is what we have been doing even today. But like I said to you, we are facing challenges in those 4 power stations that I mentioned.
So the news is out, and I know that you were quite rightly not wanting to tell me what the offer on the table was because you wanted it to get to the workers. But we do know that it's in the region of 7%, which is obviously more than Eskom was offering, but not as high as the ask. However, can you tell us whether it's likely to be something that you can work with?
The only people who will give us a mandate of whether they are happy with the offer that will be presented in the Central Bargaining Forum on Friday at the workers. We will then take that offer to the members to give us a mandate as to whether they are accepting it or not. But it's not only the issue of a wage offer, it's an issue of conditions of service also, the housing allowance also, Sally, that workers are concerned about.
All right, so there could be sweetness added into that. So the final question I have for you, and that is more about the impact of those 4 power stations, Matla, Hendrina, Arnott, Letaba. And obviously you speak for NUM, you don't speak for NUMSA, and some people are represented by NUMSA. But if the workers at these 4 stations are adamant they won't go back to work until they actually have the deal signed on the dotted line, does that mean it's very likely that we as consumers of electricity should prepare ourselves for perhaps a few more days of stage 6?
I cannot preempt anything. Like I said, Sally, that our team of leaders in those 4 power stations are doing their level best to try and speak to the workers to normalize the situation while we are negotiating with Eskom. We want to see stability in those 4 power stations.
Don't we all? And thank you very much for the update. We really do appreciate your time. Spokesperson for the National Union of Mine Workers, Livhuwani Mammburu, just telling us that there are 4 power stations where workers are saying we don't want to normalise anything until this deal is signed. Of course, we have more to come on this story, but let's